ladies and gentlemen, this is Ilya S., your co-host of Beyond the Kayfabe Free-for-All. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Palm Springs, notwithstanding some heavy traffic. But what do we do in heavy traffic? We give you a show you'll never forget. It might be forgettable too, but hey, at least we give you our bonus show. This is the Survivor Series and more bonus. The things I'd like to talk about today would be this previous weekend's shows. Unfortunately, I missed our main podcast, and I'd like to thank Daniel MS. He did a diligent job. He filled in on his own. It was during the holiday seasons. I got a little bit booked, as lots of us did, but Daniel came through. And now I want to give my side of the opinion, my side of the story here. Daniel had a lot of good insight, but some of the things I disagree with, some of the things I had a little bit of a different point of view on. We want to go over tonight, of course, Survivor Series, the big and overhyped, star-studded, mind you, event from this past Sunday. Raw, Smackdown, this week's flagship shows this past week's before we get to next week's slew of shows, and of course the surprising sleeper show of the weekend, NXT's War Games, which had, of course, the infamous and old school Dusty Rhodes creation, the War Games cage, which was not brought back to its completely true form and fashion, but they came close, and they kind of put their own spin on the cage, and they put their own WWE put their own touch on it, which I don't fault them for. It worked, basically, and I'll explain how it worked. And Daniel, you should watch this. It's a damn good show. So let's start with Survivor Series, of course. I'd like to say that. Of course, I'd like to say that. Start off with that Enzo Amore match. Gosh, it escapes me. It escapes me who he faced for that cruiserweight championship, but all right, back to it, guys. Anyway, Enzo Amore match was an all right match. I don't never expect a 5-star from this guy. After all, he was brought in for the personality, for his obnoxious demeanor, he's a charismatic guy, of course, don't get me wrong, but it's the persona that brought him into 205 Live, not the wrestling skills, really, but he's all right, and the match was all right. It's funny, I was at the car wash and running a bunch of errands during the beginning of Survivor Series, but I actually caught it on my phone, which is the beauty, another benefit and beauty of the WWE Network versus the old pay-per-view days. And of course, we'll never forget those old pay-per-view days where we sat at home round the couch and anticipating that month's show. The shows were higher quality in the 90s, but that's a whole nother topic to be discussed, guys. Anyway, so actually, Survivor Series kicked off pretty strongly. It kicked off with what did it kick off with? Kicked off with a pretty strong match. I believe it kicked off with the New Day. The official show kicked off with the New Day versus the Shield. Daniel really highly praised this one. I thought it was all right. It had all your usual high spots. I think it was an all right match. 5 or 6 out of 10. I wouldn't put it as a classic. Daniel praised having the Shield and the New Day back together, and I mean I agree. These are really strong teams. The Shield kind of still rusty in the tag team department, in teaming all three of them together department, because it's been so long. But it was hard hitting. It was a hard hitting match. It really got my attention. The one thing I would say about this one that I noticed, wow, there's a bunch of motorcycles, Hell's Angels, Harley Davidson's here, which is pretty cool. The one thing I noticed is Roman. He's comfortable. He's comfortable in this team environment. Is just how he's comfortable when he's when all the focus is on him and he's the guy, and the ball is in his court. I think that's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of spotlight on one guy, and so. And so he's more comfortable in the 6-man tag environment. The crowd, the crowd likes it more. The crowd is behind him a little more. Not that I didn't hear some boos. I did hear some boos anyway for Mr. Reigns, but yeah, the crowd was a little more behind him. He knew his spots. He was comfortable. He was himself. And hopefully they keep this team together for a little while until there's a big angle to split them up again, which I think it should be an Ambrose heel turn. For one, it'll spruce up Ambrose's character, and for another, it's new and original. It hasn't happened before, so hopefully that's where they're going. But of course, the Shield picked this one up, and also, we as fans have ideas of where these matches and where these things should go, and unfortunately, the WWE has different ideas, and usually they're more underwhelming than what we want, unfortunately. But moving forward, we had, and this is not in any particular order, we had the women's 8-women tag, which was pretty good. I think it was a pretty good match. I'm not a huge fan of the women like some are, but it was pretty good. I would not exactly rate it as 5 stars, but I think it served its purpose, which was continuing to build up Asuka, and that was what it did. And Asuka was the sole survivor, and she gave Raw a much needed victory, a much expected victory, because as we will see moving down the line on the show, there's no matter how they spin it or what they say, Raw is their flagship, Raw is their baby, Raw is their number one event, number one show. Smackdown is always going to be second, even though they're under the same company. They're under the same umbrella. That's just the way it is. So, moving down the line here, though. Now we're talking about the women's match. We're talking about Sheamus and Cesaro versus the Usos. A lot of people were kind of predicting that Sheamus and Cesaro would win, but Sheamus and Cesaro would win. 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 But Sheamus and lot of people were kind of predicting that this match would actually steal the show. These two teams, they are so good, they are so talented. I think Usos are highly underrated. They're kind of hidden away on Smackdown, I would say, and they've done so much with their characters in the past year. They've really reinvented themselves, and it works. And I think I would really put them and the team of Sheamus and Cesaro at the bar as a close tie for MVPs of the year if they do have the Slammies awards. I think that's where they should go with that award. But moving forward, I believe Sheamus and Cesaro took this. I believe they took this. Let's see here. Yeah, so anyway, I don't really remember the winner. I think it was Sheamus and Cesaro, but it was a good match. I would say it was the match of the night. Owens and Zayn also faced off against another tag team. I believe they were relegated to the pre-show even. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, that is. I didn't like it. I think obviously it's a punishment, even though they got involved later, which means they're still up there in the top of the echelon of SmackDown, at least. It was just a punishment for Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, and they were on the pre-show, and it was all right, and that's all really we can say about that. Now, the SmackDown Women's Championship, Charlotte retained. I'm not surprised here. Charlotte retains that belt versus Alexa Bliss, champion versus champion. Again, pretty underwhelmed by it. These two just don't mesh, and I think once they're on the same brand and really feuding with each other, eventually this is not going to be anything new or anything really interesting to me. But again, this is where we're at with this. Now let me go all the way up to AJ Styles versus Brock Lesnar. Of course, AJ Styles wasn't supposed to be in this match. They started with the hype for Brock Lesnar, eventually for Jinder Mahal, to face Brock Lesnar. Eventually, they kind of decided to shift a different way. And as a side note, there have been so many shifts in thinking and so many changes and rearrangements every day that it's kind of reported that this is more change. This is more like, these unpredictable changes than anybody can remember in history. Just so many changes and rearrangements. And anyway, so you all know the story here. Jinder was supposed to be in this feud. Eventually, Styles got the strap from Jinder, which changed it to Styles versus Lesnar. The match, I guess my thoughts on it going in were, these two guys have pretty different styles. They're both cardio. They both have strong cardio. They both can go. Obviously, AJ will be better at that in that department because he's smaller and leaner. But wow, these two did not disappoint. It was a great match. Lesnar versus Styles, a lot better at least than I anticipated. First of all, Lesnar's been kind of cookie cutter by the book with his matches for the past couple of years. Since this Suplex City stuff really started, suplexes, and a few moves, and we're done. Short matches. This match was a little longer. The Styles, no pun intended, the two styles really actually complemented each other. We had some, I mean, AJ really pulled it out. We had some really high-risk moves. We had some intrigue. And, man, I was wrong. I was wrong about these two styles not meshing well, because Lesnar has his cardio down, and Lesnar can adapt to that high-flying style, and that's actually the uniqueness that's always been about Lesnar. He's not only ground and pound. He's not only a brawler. He's got technical prowess. He's got technical skill and technical prowess. Now, so that was a good match, and I think that was a match of the night. I don't necessarily think it was the match of the weekend. But it was a really great match. Now moving on to this final match here at Survivor Series, the 5-on-5 tag, 10-man tag. Incredibly star-studded, guys. On the Raw side, we had Kurt Angle, The Game Triple H, Braun Strowman, Samoa Joe, and Finn Balor, who faced off the SmackDown side against Shane McMahon, John Cena, Bobby Roode, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Randy Orton. Strong, star-studded event. Now, I happen to disagree a little bit about Daniel. I know he liked it very much, but I think my opinion here is that I think an event should be rated as good as its main event. And not just main event, it should be rated on its main event and its final segment, the way the main event ends. And I think they completely went, like, anything we thought could have happened, gender interfering, Cena turning on his team. Is that highway to healthy, man? That's great. It just didn't happen, and they went like this. They didn't go like this. They didn't go like this. They didn't go like this. They went like, whoop, whoop. They swerved. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not. First of all, I'm not one of those that are saying, "Oh, Hunter again wants to put himself over, wants to make himself the man and the king of Raw again, and make himself overly involved," because obviously in 2017, it's really not plausible. I mean, the guy's still in tremendous shape, and he wrestles a part-time schedule, and I think he likes it that way. He has a lot of obligations otherwise, but the thing is, the way they kind of turned it and left it as involving Hunter and Shane. Hunter kind of turning on Shane when we thought he was going to join his side, and then getting Braun Strowman involved with Hunter at the end. First of all, why are they making Braun Strowman a baby face so quick? This guy is made to be a heel, guys. He's a monster. He's huge. Of course, he's gonna get cheered here and there just for his look and his mere sheer size, but already, you know, facing off against Hunter, and he's still kind of playing heelish, but they're making him a baby face too soon, I think. Hunter, of course, winning served a purpose. He got his ass handed to him by Braun Strowman, and I'm not sure where they're headed, but I believe they're headed for Hunter Strowman soon here. I think what they're really building toward for WrestleMania is a feud between Hunter and Kurt Angle, based on what happened at the end. Hunter kind of eliminating Angle, but the question is, why did they go this way? Why did they go Hunter Strowman? And why did they end it the way they did? It was just confusing and it was strange. Another side note is that you could tell that Kurt Angle was slow and sluggish, and I was surprised that he was wrestling this way. He put on great performances shortly before he got back to WWE. He was putting on fast-paced 5-star indie matches still, guys. Honestly, seriously. But again, news comes out now that he actually tore his he had a leg injury. He tore a muscle, and that was the primary reason for this sluggishness. And of course, Angle, it's not the same Angle we saw in 06, the Wrestling Machine. First of all, the guy is a lot slimmer. He shed a lot of weight. The guy's much more banged up, about 10 years worth more of being banged up. And so, yeah, so that's expected, but the guy can still go, guys. And obviously, he probably shouldn't have wrestled house shows before this, although it was a practice run, because he obviously wasn't ready to go for Survivor Series. So overall, guys, it was an okay show. Not as great as I expected. I definitely, my rating would be middle of. Yes. So talking about the NXT show, I think it was better, and I'm only going to talk about the. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back from our little network glitch here. So anyway, Drew McIntyre versus Almas Cien Aldis, whatever his name is. You would, like, these guys made the match work. Like, you would think that the size difference, right? Drew was so gigantic compared to Cien, who is a small guy, but when these two went face to face in the middle of that ring before the bell rang, it was on, and you could feel it. You could feel that these two were going to give you something. And it was it really told a story, and unfortunately it was an abrupt ending, and the belt, whether it was intended to change hands or not, it could have been finished and been that much better if it was finished according to plan. But I liked it, and Drew has not disappointed since he's come back. I mean, the guy, battled some demons during his first run in WWE and didn't quite make it. He turned things around for himself. He made his name in the indies. He came back to NXT. And I believe he was on his way to the main roster. I mean, this belt changed hands. I believe the guy was on his way to the main roster, and it's very sad that he got injured now after all those things and all those obstacles and challenges he persevered through. He may be on the shelf for 6 or 7 months, but I don't think the guy should feel bad. I mean, about it, because he's really accomplished so much. So that's one thing. I liked, and the other thing was the War Games, which was controversial, with a lot of people saying how. And I understand that too. The 80s fans, that's their match, man. That thing needed to have a roof on it, and that thing needed to have big names in it, and that thing, maybe they didn't do it justice, but they did it. They did their spin on it, and it worked. And it worked because it was exciting. I think the team that needed to win won, with Bobby Fish and those other guys that I can't exactly remember their names, but we all know who they are, the hardcore wrestling fans, at least. And Kyle O'Reilly and these guys. And so it was outstanding. I think it was outstanding, and I think there was a reason for not having the roof on the cage, which was the crazy high flying moves they did off the top of that cage. It was worth. I think it was worth changing a little bit just for that, and man, they did it their way. So I like that show more than Survivor Series. It's some of these guys like Eric Young have been staples in TNA for a long time, and I think they're really proving their worth. They're proving themselves. They're proving their name of value. So that's what I thought about that, guys. Now, as for Raw and SmackDown, Raw was. I agree with Daniel. It was an all right show. I guess the biggest points of that show will be Paige returning, the big Paige return after a year and a half just being gone and dealing with her demons and dealing with Alberto Del Rio. Got her in a lot of trouble dealing with nagging injuries, and WWE really didn't lose faith in this young talent, and now she's back, and I believe the Alberto relationship is over, which actually would be beneficial for her career, in my opinion. But here she is, man, and she got a great pop, and she brought in these NXT women who I'm not sure if it's the right time for them to have been called up, but they were, and they made an impact, and it's something new and it's something fresh, and it's a much needed charge. It's a much needed electric charge for Raw. Women division. I like it. Obviously the ultimate thing they should probably build toward would be Asuka Paige for WrestleMania. That would be an interesting feud, and these girls are both very strong in ring, and it would be definitely a worthwhile match to see. So looking forward to whenever that happens. The other big thing was Roman Reigns winning the Intercontinental Championship. I think it's not a bad idea to put this mid-card title on Reigns. Obviously, they did it to make him a Grand Slam champion, which is kind of, according to Vince's thinking, of course, it's the next sensical play to call here. But the reason they put the strap on Roman Reigns is because the Miz is leaving the company for a little while to film Marine 6. Man, they've been cranking these out. To film Marine 6 with Shawn Michaels. I believe Natalya and Shawn Michaels. With Natalya and Shawn Michaels in also starring in this one, so I'm interested in this movie, but nevertheless, that's the reason that the Miz is going to be away from the company for a while now. I think the Miz and he hasn't gotten lost in the shuffle either. So good for Miz. So that's kind of what I thought of Raw. Another middle of the road show. Better than SmackDown was, though. I mean, on SmackDown we had the Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn story moving forward. And even though it seems these two are in the doghouse, at least they're not completely off television as they're playing a role on SmackDown. So Shane, of course, made some excuses about SmackDown losing, but still being the great show, OG. You know, again, very obvious that SmackDown, in Vince's eyes, is the B show, will always be the B show as long as WWE exists, and that's just the way it is. And let's not sugarcoat it. Speeches like we're great even though we lost Shane, and obviously they're building to a disconnect between Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon and their decision making. We'll see where that goes. And the show kind of focused around Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn getting their butts kicked by all the superstars that Shane and Daniel Bryan can think of. Instead of being released right away, they're kind of putting them through the challenges and the obstacles and the gauntlets. So it's been done. It's been done before, and I find the formula pretty interesting, but you guys can do better, SmackDown. So that's kind of what I got for SmackDown. The Bludgeon Brothers debuted, Rowan and Harper. For some reason, I see them in the long run just going back to being the Wyatt family and being with Bray. That's kind of what I see there. But I definitely thought Raw was better than SmackDown, and so that's pretty much how this weekend in wrestling was for me. I wanted to discuss something before I left the airwaves, guys, which is Dave Bautista on Jim Ross's podcast. He was was actually talking about how he is in talks with Vince McMahon again, and that he loves the business. He loves the wrestling business, and he wants to come back, and he wants to not just come back for a one-off match. He wants to have a program. He wants to work house shows. He wants to go through that whole thing, you know. He wants to go through that whole process of being maybe not a full-time guy, but having a run kind of like Jericho, which was a little bit surprising to me. I know that his last run in 2014 ended kind of on a sour note. I know that there's unfinished business there when we talk about Triple H, and when we talk about Batista having that one awesome WrestleMania match. And this goes back to awesome WrestleMania closing match, and this goes back to what we've been hearing about Batista being the name considered for the Hall of Fame this coming year, and I believe that's where they're going, either with Batista or Bill Goldberg for the Hall of Fame. And if they do in fact go with Batista, I see that happening, that in-ring return. So that's great to hear. I mean, Batista can bring a lot, and if done right, if he's a heel, if he feuds with the right guys, if he gets the proper fan reaction utilized, he will get a big reaction. So looking forward to that. Guys, I'm going to sign off now. Horrible traffic here in Palm Springs. Probably not the best day to drive to Los Angeles. People coming back from their vacay Thanksgivings. But nevertheless, we will speak to you next week. Thank you guys for listening. Of course, you can catch me on the archives, on the Beyond the Kayfabe channel, on YouTube. Hit us up on chat, and have a great rest of the weekend. Later.